let's talk about the basic concept of all right. So let's talk about the basic concept of probability. We have five of them that we are going to look at into depth. So I suggest that you read through the slide, but I'm going to switch to the blackboard soon. The first one is the intersections of event. The second one is the union of event. The third one, mutually exclusive event. We are going to understand what that term means. We have also what we call collectively exhaustive event and statistically independent event. Now, going on to our blackboard, let's look at the scenario here. Example 4.3. Feel free to pause and read this example. We are going to show what are all the five concepts looking at this table. We're going to find the example of all of them. So feel free to pause at this moment. Just read through this table and we're going to go through all our concepts. All right, so the first point that we're going to look at here is in the intersection of event. So let's say we have two events here, which I'm going to call event A here. So this is the A, and I'm going to have, let's say, the red here. This is going to be my event B. All right. So event A and event B, the intersection which we represent by using this sign A and B is the outcomes that belongs to both A and B simultaneously. So which means it's this section here, like this. Okay, so it's not this one, it's not this one, but it's where the both meet here, the section that belongs to both of them. And then usually in a question you will find yourself that the keyword will be and, this one here. So for every concept here, I want you to pay attention to the keyword. All right, so let's look at one of the example from this table of this intersection of event. As an example here, I could say, or I could ask, what is the probability that a randomly selected company on this GSE table would be small and will operate in the service sector? So let me just write it down here. So we are looking for the probability that a company will be small and operate in the service sector. So this is what we are looking for. So I'm just going to underline here, this is my service section, and here this is the small section. So we can see now that the intersection of A and B here, like this. So let's say this is my A and this is my B. Therefore, my intersection here of A and B is equal to 10. All right. And if you wondering where the 10 came from, the 10 is coming from here. And from our equation, we know that P is equal to R over N. R is the number of outcome and this is the total. So if this is the number of outcome, it happens 10 times that we have a small company under the service sector, and our total here is what? Is this one here, 170. So which I'm going to represent maybe with a brighter color. So we have 170. Therefore, we will do 10 divided by 170. And from there, take your calculator, you should get 0.0588. Okay, so in other words, we have 5, if I round off, 5.9% chance of finding a company that is small and that is within the service sector. So this is a clear explanation of how an intersection would look like. Okay, let's move on now to our second concept, which is the union of event. So the union is basically, let's say you have an event A and you have another event here, B. So the union is just the set of all outcomes that belongs to A and B. So this time we are not just interested in this section. No, we are looking at the entire thing here. Union, like the word union. So it's the combination of both. And like I said, pay attention to keywords. When it comes to union, you usually get the keyword is or. All right. So a quick example that we'll see. Let's just go back to the same scenario that we just spoke about, because we have that already in our mind. So looking at this table here, so the GAC table, what is the probability, I would say, of finding an event now that is a randomly selected GSE that will be small, that will be either a small company or a service company sector, or both. So let me just write. So here the P that we are looking for probability is, we're looking for a company here that will be small. Right. So okay, so as I was saying, the probability that a company will be either one, small, or within the service sector, or both. So this is usually how one would formulate a question that involves the union concept. So we're looking at small, service, or both. So let's just point them out here. We have small, service, or both. So we're looking at this entire thing. Yeah, maybe I'll just do this. So we see that this is the service and this is the small. Okay, the small or both. So here's what's going to happen here. What you need to do first is you write down probability of A union B, because this is what we're doing, small and service. You first take up the total of all the small companies. Here we have 36, just so that you could see. So we have 36, then you put 36 there, okay? Then what you do, you add all the service sector company. We have 24. You add 24, and very important, you need to remember to subtract now their intersection, which is 10. Why are we subtracting 10? So that we don't double count. Then you do minus 10. Always remove the intersection, otherwise you are going to double count the value. And what you do, you divide everything by 170. So if you take your calculator and you perform this, you should get 0.294. Therefore, we have 29.4% chance of finding a company that is either small, either in the service sector, or both. So this is how you work out a union. Always very important, remember to always remove the intersection, otherwise you're going to double count. Another concept that we'll look at quickly is what we call being mutually exclusive. So when two events are said to be mutually exclusive, it just means that they cannot occur together on a single random trial of experiment. So if this is that event A, we'll see that event A and event B are actually distant. They cannot occur together. It's actually impossible. So looking at our scenario here, let's say if I asked you what is the probability of a random JSC company can be both small and medium. So you can see that this is small, this is medium. And as you can see here, it's actually impossible to find a company that is both small and medium. There's nothing there. So from there you would say that the P of A and B will be equal to 0. So it's when an event or two events cannot occur together. So you can either have a small company or a medium company. You cannot have a company that is small and medium. So that's what we mean by mutually exclusive. A collectively exhaustive, on the other side, the term means that the union of all the possible events. So when you add event A and B and C, will give you the total or the sample space, which is, remember, in statistics we say it's between 0 and 1, so our total will be equal to 1. One of the best example is, what is the probability of selecting on this table here? What is the probability of selecting on this table a company that will be either small, medium, or large? Okay, so let's say A is small, B is for medium, C is for large. Therefore, finding out that probability, so the probability of, let me just change it here like this, will be now the probability of company A, B, and C. Let's just test this if this will be true. Then what do? We just create this. The total of finding a small company is 36. You add 48 there, then you add 86. Okay, so it's basically just doing this. You add all those there. If I just maybe clean it up here, these are different calculations. So you add those probability together, take your calculator and do that. You will see that you should get 02112 plus 0282 plus 0506, and when you add all that you get the sum of 1. So this is what we mean by something is collectively exhaustive. So it means that when you add all those probability together is equal to the sample space or the total number of chances, which is always 1. So when it comes to the last term, which is statistically independent, it means that the occurrence of event A has no effect on the occurrence of event B. So one of the example is that, let's say you are looking at the proportion of clients that use internet banking for, let's say, a bank. You see that the male, the proportion is let's say 50 out of 100, right? And then you also go to female now. Okay, this is terrible, but yeah, it's also 50 out of 100. Okay, so what you find is that the preference of internet online banking users is not affected by this factor that we'll call gender. So you see, which means that event A here and event B do not depend on one another. So this is what we mean by independent. So these two do not depend on one another. So it occurs on its own. This occurs on its own. But having said so, now we must be very careful that statistically independent is not equal to mutually exclusive. Okay, the difference is that mutually exclusive cannot occur together, but statistically independent can occur but does not affect each other. Okay, So there's a big difference to make there.